Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to another edition of Bhagavatam Bites. Before we begin, I just want to give a shout out to some devotees I met yesterday here at Matchless Gifts, by the way. That's where we're at, in case you didn't recognize. And the wonderful devotees was Sri Nitai Charan Prabhu and his wife Subhadra Priya Devi and their son Anirudh. They were all here yesterday from Minneapolis, and it was really lovely to meet them. And we were talking for some time, and then at the end, Srinitai Charan Prabhu was saying, because he mentioned he used to watch some readings that were happening on Facebook of Bhagavatam, how much he liked it. And I said, yeah, my wife and I started. And he went, wait a minute, is that Bhagavatam Bites? And then we found it. He said, look, see, I'm a subscriber. So shout out.
Are you watching even though you're a subscriber?
Oh, my dear Lord. This is my wife, perpetually
anyway,
chastising.
you took a photo of him, no?
I did take a
photo.
photo.
So I'll put a photo here.
Okay, great. Okay, so anyway, shout out Srinitai Charan Prabhu. Hopefully you will watch this. Okay, so we're reading from the Bhagavatam.
All right. Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 11.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Right, text 11. King Puranjana began to search for a suitable place to live, and thus he travelled all over the world. Even after a great deal of travelling, he could not find a place just to his liking. Finally, he became morose and disappointed. That's what happens. There we go, house hunting.
Put this a little closer to you.
Purport. The travellings of King Puranjan are similar to the travellings of the modern hippies. Generally, hippies are sons of great fathers and great families. It is not that they are always poor. But some way or another they abandon the shelter of their rich fathers and travel all over the world. As stated in this verse, the living entity wants to become a Prabhu or master. The word Prabhu means master, but actually the living entity is not a master. He is the eternal servant of God. When the living entity abandons the shelter of God, Krishna, and tries to become a Prabhu independently, he travels all over the creation. There are 8,400,000 species of life and millions and trillions of planets within the creation. The living entity wanders throughout these various types of bodies and throughout different planets, and thus he is like King Puranjan, who travelled all over the world looking for a suitable place to live. That's interesting. The first thing that stood out to me was Prabhupada's, he was quite, not astonished, but, this hippies were like a thing, to him. It was like, that's what I'm understanding, not just from this, but like when he speaks out elsewhere, because in India, when you act like a hippie, it's because you are genuinely homeless, with no money, poverty-stricken this, so that's why you walk around like they do, because circumstances dictate. So you can imagine Prabhupada coming to the West, coming to America, and then it's like he said, these people do come from well-to-do places, or at least come from a home, as it were. They're choosing to fight out against the system or protest against the system and dress in a funny way and look funny and act funny and all this sort of stuff and smelly and whatnot, maybe, whatever, I don't know. But the point, so you can imagine, it's like, what are you doing, And then he would use the analogy or comparison of, for us all as spirit souls, and our father is Krishna, but we choose to be hippies, as it were, like in the material wandering around, and we don't have to, because we have this Supreme Father. And it's ludicrous for someone on Prabhupada's level as well to look at that and say, why are you suffering, man? Just chant Hare Krishna. You realize who your father is in the same way, It's like, what are you doing? It's like, when my nephew was teenager and he went shopping. I think he went with my mum, and then he wanted to buy. She was being the grandma. She's going to spoil him, whatever, and she's buying some trousers or something, jeans. And he was picking up, the jeans that you can buy that are ripped up. And she was like, "What the? I'm not buying you clothes like this." And I remember when she came home, she was so shocked. And she was telling my dad, and she was telling, they sell these clothes and they had all rips. And then it was comparing to back home in the village in India, where they may dress like that because they got no choice, and they don't want to dress like that. And she's like, "I'm not paying," I think it was like £20 at the time or whatever it was. And she didn't buy it, much to my nephew's dismay, but she didn't buy it. So, it's like you can imagine, it's like, what are you doing? And they just need to reconnect, with what you got, and you don't need to suffer. And it's the same thing here, isn't it? Prabhupada's saying the living entity abandons Krishna, so he's going all over the creation trying to get some satisfaction. Like, what's his name? What's the one that says, Mick Jagger, "I can't get no satisfaction"? That's because you just deliberately turned your back on the place that's going to give you satisfaction. So you're going all the way here, there, and everywhere. As Prabhupada says, travelling all over the world and the planets. You just got to go back home and stop being silly. That's all.
I thought you said Nimitta Jaga. I thought, wow, she just quoted some Shastric statement. Nimitta Jaga travels all over the universe looking for satisfaction. And then I realized you said Mick Jagger can't get no satisfaction. I thought, Lord have mercy.
I am known to quote things from time to time. Thank you. And then,
I was also in the same situation when I was a youngster all them years ago. And I wanted to rip up my jeans, and my mom was having a heart attack. Then they had this thing then called stonewashing. Some of you may know that basically new jeans, you'd buy them and they had little tiny rips, but they were mostly kind of washed out.
Washed out.
And Mom wouldn't buy those. So I said, okay, we'll buy new ones and I'll get the stone and we'll wash. And she's like, "You're not putting any stones in my washing machine." So I was like, it's just kind of different generation. Now people wear all this stuff, and it's actually quite commonplace to buy clothes that are ripped. And but the point being that what I always understood is that the people who took to like hippie life and people who just, they have this strong sense of renunciation, which is an opulence of Krishna. It's one of the 6 opulences that defines Krishna as Bhagavan, that he is renounced. So this tendency for renunciation is an opulence, and it is something that's idolized by others. So some people having something and then going and living on the street when they could live in almost like a mansion or a very nice house or have these things, for them they want to give it up. Of course now there's false renunciation. What is I can't remember, Vairagya, something
Yukta.
No. Anyway, this false renunciation.
Markandeya Rishi.
Not Markandeya Rishi renunciation. No. Not Mick Jagger renunciation either. Anyway, so now it's like people want to wear clothes that make them look renounced even though they're not renounced, because those clothes that are all ripped up cost twice as much as brand new clothes. So it's like, it's kind of a bit of diversity. I'll read the next paragraph.
Please.
Sri Narottam Das Thakur has sung Karma Kanda Jnana Kanda Kevala Vishera Bandha. The path of Karma Kanda, fruitive activities, and the path of Jnana Kanda, speculation, are just like strong pots of poison. Amrita Baliya Yeba Kaya Nana Yoni Sada Pire. A person who makes this poison...
Who mistakes
this poison to be nectar and drinks it, travels in different species of life. Kadarya Bhakshana Kare. And according to his body, he eats all types of abominable things. For instance, when the living entity is in the body of a hog, he eats stool. When the living entity is in the body of a crow, he eats all kinds of refuse. even pus and mucus, and enjoys it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thus, Narottam Das Thakur points out that the living entity travels in different types of bodies and eats all kinds of abominable things when he does not become ultimately happy. He becomes morose or takes to the ways of hippies. So I remember, because we kind of grew up a little bit idolizing the hippies, thinking that the hippies were all cool, because there was a whole generation of music that came out of the hippie era. The 60s was like, the Doors, Hendrix, all these different bands. But then I remember speaking to someone and they were describing, no, hippies were like basically homeless people. They didn't bathe, they smelled bad, and and all these kind of things. But of course, not everyone that Prabhupada initiated was a hippie. It was just that there were a lot of people who were hippies that kind of got into it. A lot of people that Prabhupada initiated and became disciples of Srila Prabhupada were actually, highly intelligent, not necessarily renounced in that way. But this is an interesting point, that how different species of living entities, they feed off of, because one becomes food, one jiva becomes food for another jiva. So there's like a food chain, and certain animals eat, plankton, and then certain animals eat fish, and then fish eat different bugs, and then this eats that, and it just goes on and on. So in this way, it's like, somehow when I read this, I was thinking, you get in a body of an animal and you're forced to eat all kinds of nasty stuff. Like you said, pigs, they root through the sewage, and crows, they go to the garbage heaps and pluck in the garbage, and ants eat garbage, and maggots. I saw something about on the news that there are these flesh-eating maggots in Mexico, and the American government is doing something like to try to prevent them from coming to America, and they're spending like 30 million or 30 billion. And I'm like, well, if they're flesh-eating maggots there, how come all the people aren't dying there, but they're not? Anyway, it's just kind of a weird thing. But the point being that different living entities eat other living entities. Anyway,
all right.
Long purport.
Next paragraph. Thus, in this verse, it is said, Na anu rupam, that the king could never find a place suitable for his purposes. This is because in any form of life and on any planet in the material world, a living entity cannot be happy, because everything in the material world is unsuitable for the spirit soul. As stated in this verse, the living entity independently wants to become a Prabhu. But as soon as he gives up this idea and becomes a servant of God, Krishna, his happiness immediately begins. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Niche mayara vase yache beshe, kacha habu dubibai. My dear living entity, why are you being carried away by the waves of Maya? As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.61, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hride deshe arjuna tishtati, paramaya sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The living entity...
It's another paragraph, no?
Well, it's not another paragraph here, but you can have it.
Okay, no, go ahead.
No,
I
you're
don't
right,
mind. I don't mind.
It is. It's just here they
There's
don't
plenty
do
more.
an indentation.
There's plenty more to read.
Can I just speak, please? So, yeah, anyway, it's just a continuation of what we've said anyway. The living entity is just wandering around trying to find happiness, which is so true, isn't it? Like, we were just seeing some devotees last week, and we were talking to them, and then, what are you doing? Oh, where are you going now? I'm going to try this temple and that temple, then I'm going to that one. I mean, just using that example as devotees who are like living in temple. Oh, I'm going to temple surf, as it were. because you just, even within the spiritual realm, as it were, on the path, we're trying to find satisfaction. What to speak of out on, not on the path, you know, I'm going to change job, I'm going to change my hairstyle, change my partner, get rid of my husband, get another one. You know, we try our best, but anyway. That's it.
Easy journey to other temples. Bhakti Vishwamamata Maharaj used to call it.
Yeah,
The living
blessing,
entity is
blessing.
carried in the machine of the body through so many species of life on so many planets. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked the living entity why he is being carried away in these bodily machines, to be placed in so many different circumstances. He advises that one surmount the waves of Maya by surrendering unto Krishna. Jiva Krishna dasa e vishwas, karle ta'ara dukkha nai. As soon as we confront Krishna, Krishna advises, Sarva dharmam paricha jamame kam sharanam brajaham tvam sarve pape bilmokshayishami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Is it shown in the paragraph there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, living entity. I love this word, this verse, yantra rudani maya ya, that we are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. It just always just drives the fact home that this body is simply a machine and we're seated inside of that machine. And this is how we traverse the material energy. This is how we move around in the material world. So, very powerful.
Thus, we are immediately relieved from traveling from one body to another, from one planet to another. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Brahmanda Brahmete Kauna Bhagyavan Jiva. That's my Jalila. If while traveling, a living entity becomes fortunate enough to become blessed by the association of devotees and to come to Krishna consciousness, his real life actually begins. This Krishna consciousness movement is giving all wandering living entities a chance to take to the shelter of Krishna and thus become happy.
Haribol, the search for happiness.
Yeah, it's so fleeting. Life, fragile. I actually got a message literally just before we left. Well, yeah, anyway. Left the
You
bus.
got a message. It's fine. We don't need the approximate time you got it, where you got it, who gave it.
Leaving the Bhakti Center to come here, someone passed away. And I was just thinking, not that long ago they were not literally, I think last month they were celebrating their daughter's wedding. So, yeah. I'm like, oh my, it's like, and they've still got another one to go, I think, another daughter. So it's a big thing, especially, it's like, anyway, the point is that I was just thinking how Prabhupada came to the West, and we heard briefly in the class today what he went through, the inconveniences, even before he left. I think if I'd got attacked by a bull or a cow, I don't know whether, sometimes they say bull, sometimes they say cow, but when Prabhupada got gored, as it were, and that was in India, I'd be like, I don't know about this Krishna, really? And then he comes and...
That was the least of his...
No, but then he comes, even before he got here, the way he came, it's like, really? On like this horrible ship? And then like, what he experienced on the ship, and when he came here, it didn't get any better. How he lived, it's quite grubby here. So I can't imagine how grubby it was when Prabhupada was here on the Bowery. So, but he did that, and you can see in this, what I just read, this Krishna consciousness movement is giving all wandering living entities a chance to take to the shelter of Krishna and thus become happy. And that right there summarizes why he did that, why he went through he went. This Krishna conscious movement, which is ISKCON, which is his movement, and always will be, is giving the opportunity to all wandering living entities. So he isn't even discriminating. He isn't going to the upper class. He isn't just going to the educated people or just to the Indians or this. All living entities a chance, just simply a chance to take to the shelter of Krishna. Either be reintroduced because you were brought up and you knew who he was and you don't really know who he was, or you just don't know. And end it and thus become happy. You know, we shouldn't take that for granted, that this is why Prabhupada went through. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't have done any of that. And it would, you know, it's too much sometimes to get out of bed even. So it's like, and at his old age, and you cannot fathom what he went through, you know. Tolerated and just gave.
Yeah, giving. And what was he giving? He was giving matchless gifts.
There you go.
In this verse, the words vimana, iva, are very significant. In this material world, even the great King of Heaven is also full of anxiety. If even Lord Brahma is full of anxiety, what of these ordinary living entities who are working within this plane? Bhagavad Gita 8.16 confirms, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartino Arjuna. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. In the material world, a living entity is never satisfied. Even in the position of Brahma or in the position of Indra or Chandra, one is full of anxiety simply because he has accepted this material world as a place of happiness. Yeah, very powerful statements. I mean, we read these things time and time again, but it's like, you know, almost every sentence is just like profound spiritual wisdom that could transform and change the heart of anyone. So this, you know, that this world is just, it is full of anxiety. And why is it full of anxiety? Not because the world is producing anxiety. The world is just producing circumstances. But it's full of anxiety because we have accepted that this world is a place of happiness. So because we have a misconception, it's like going to a vending machine and thinking you're going to get a specific thing out of it. Let's just say you want to get a coconut water, and you put in your money, and all that comes out of it is Coca-Cola, you know, cans of Coke, and you're like so frustrated with the stupid machine. But the thing is that the machine is only meant to give Coca-Cola. It's not meant to give coconut water. So you're going to be frustrated. But then you have to think, well, is it the stupid machine or is it the stupid person trying to operate the machine? So our expectation of the material world is that somehow or other we're going to twist things around and turn it around so that we can be happy. But ultimately, we're finding that just doesn't seem to work. And that's because the material world is actually meant to dish out a certain product, and that product is one of general material dissatisfaction, so like that. Anyway, I guess we'll finish there. We've gone longer than we have in a long time because the purport was a little longer, and also Bhava Bhakti was inspired to speak more today. Okay, so we'll see you all next time. I'm off to the doghouse, and we'll see you.
We're all in the doghouse in the material world.
No, we're not. We're in Prabhupada's house now, and I might be a dog, but I'm Krishna's dog.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Hare Bol.